Joining us now is the CEO of Catholics for Catholics, John Yep, along with Director of Communications for the Catholic League, Michael McDonald. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Michael, I'm going to start with you here. I'm sure you were listening to what some of those Catholics who are paying their respects for the Pope had said. One gentleman in particular stood out where he said he taught Christians how to be Christians. Your thought about that?
Pope Francis definitely left his mark on the papacy and on the Catholic Church at large. He really was all about, as he put it himself, making a mess in the church. He wanted to bring a lot of reform into the church. And unfortunately now, moving forward, we're going to have to see if the reform-minded leaning cardinals are going to continue that tradition, or is a more traditionalist-minded cardinal going to be elected and put the Catholic Church back on a more traditional footing. But that said, Pope Francis definitely made a tremendous impact and definitely brought the church in a new way to a new generation of Catholics and believers and non-believers all around the world. And you have to give him credit for that.
John, what do you think is going to happen in the conclave? Again, we've said this many times that most of the cardinals have been placed there by Pope Francis. And where do you think they'll go?
Well, first of all, most likely we're going to get, Francis II, just statistically by the numbers, right? That's what we expect. And I agree with Michael. Pope Francis's famous words at the beginning of his pontificate, "I want to create a mess," is literally what he said, right? A mess has been created. The cardinals are very cognizant of that. They understand that, there was some flirting around with just different age-old dogmas that we believe for 2,000 years that need to be reaffirmed. So Catholics, traditionalists, are really hoping that we get a new pope who will just reaffirm what we have stood by for so many years. That image of Pope Francis lying in state, there's tons of also just even non-Catholics walking through St. Peter's. I know that so well. I spent 5 years there. He's literally just about roughly about 50 yards above the actual bones of St. Peter, the first pope. So there's 2,000 years of unbroken papal history right there with Pope Francis on top and then St. Peter on the bottom below him. So tremendous moment just for the world and obviously for the 1 billion Catholics gathered and watching in prayer from around the world.
Yeah, so much history there, as you pointed out, John. Mike, we have, of course, talked about not just the differences of Pope Francis as the Pope, but also now the differences that are taking place in his burial versus pontiffs in the past. These are things that, that he had asked for, we're learning. And he asked for one simple wooden coffin versus the very traditional, more casket style that we have seen before. The Pope also choosing to be buried outside the Vatican. What do these changes say about the Pope? I mean, to me, I think really more it just indicates that even down to the very last time people around the globe will see him, he is still doing things his way.
Yes, and as John pointed out, and I have to agree with him on this, the Catholic Church, one of the most beautiful things about it is this just rock-solid tradition going back 2,000 years. This is one of the things. Pope Francis was famously, when he first was elected, he was going to carry his own bags. He wanted to institute sort of humility in his own life and do away with a lot of the pomp and circumstances, he called it. As someone that's a little bit more of a traditional bent myself, I really like the pomp and circumstance. I think that helps orient people in their faith. But Pope Francis, he had his own style and his own way of doing things. And, he's clearly going out with that sort of mindset still in place. But again, the challenge moving forward is going to be, are we going to totally sever from that tradition? Or are we going to hew more back towards the center and really rediscover it? And the papal funeral is always steeped in tradition, and it's very hard to get away from that. And so this could be a moment to draw people back into that tradition.
We shall see. Gentlemen, we appreciate you coming on. John, Mike, thank you.